Okay, so I'm really, really excited to talk about this topic because it's actually something that I have been feeling lately, and not even lately, I wouldn't say that. So I would say I've felt this a lot in the past for sure, and I feel it come up pretty often, and I kind of have to check myself. That's why like Bible study and just like my quiet time in the morning is literally everything to me. If I don't have it, I can definitely tell I'm off for the day. So anyways, the topic for today is disappointment, and it says the actual like thing is called bouncing back from disappointment. And then it says, ever have an idea about something that ultimately goes almost opposite of what you expected, which I feel like absolutely all of us can vote yes on that. And it says a man applies to go to Harvard, but he ends up selling insurance instead. A tired young mother stares at her unfinished novel on the desk, collecting dust, wondering about the road that she never took. When life refuses to deliver our expectations, the effect on us can be really devastating. However, discouragement is nothing new. In Luke 24, two disciples walk on the I don't know how to say this word, Emmaus Road. After the crucifixion, they embark on a 7-mile walk back from Emmaus. They discuss what has just taken place, trying to make sense of it all. Jesus was supposed to deliver them from oppression and usher in a new, glorious kingdom, and short disappointment takes hold of them. Enter Jesus, who appears as a stranger to these discouraged disciples and asks them what they're talking about. Put another way, he wants to know how they feel, and they give him the unvarnished truth of their sadness. We know their pain when the bills pile up and the bank account shrinks. Maybe you've wondered where God is in all of it. As the marriage becomes stale and the job leaves a sour taste in your mouth, you may have found yourself thinking that God of the universe has abandoned his ship. In those moments, we might do well to remember that our friend Jesus sticks closer than a brother. Don't lose heart. God has never left your side, and he has a plan to see you through even the most discouraging circumstances. While we may not understand why we go through such seasons, we can take comfort in knowing that the Lord causes all the things to work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose. And I know it's so sorry, I have something in my mouth. I know it's so simple to like hear that, and it's probably like on repeat in your head, like especially the last sentence where it says, knowing that the Lord causes all things to work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose. I know I personally heard that about a billion times, and then like sometimes it'll stick, and sometimes I'm like, I know that, but right now I don't feel it in this instance. Like if we're I was talking to someone on my team about this, and so I feel like someone else can relate to this. But she was telling me, she was like, I'm very happy, I'm very joyful in my life right now, I'm very proud of myself where I'm at, but I'm disappointed because I thought I would be a lot further. And she's doing good financially. It's not necessarily anything like that, but it's just more of like she thought she would have these things as to where she's at now. She thought she would upgrade the things that she thought she would. And I can relate to that because I've been open about like the housing process for me, and I know it's something so simple, but like all of my friends, literally all of my friends, have their own houses that they've bought, and they're having babies and they're having families and they've already gotten married and all the good things. And I am sitting here in an apartment, and again, nothing is wrong within an apartment at all. But in my season of life, I'm like, man, I really would love to have a house. And so I compare myself to that, and I'm like, man, I thought that like this year would be the year that I had a house. And so like even though that's something so simple, I can really relate to that in so many different directions, and I'll kind of correlate this with the business as well. So many of you guys are probably looking at, maybe it's the 25th. Okay, so for instance, volumes run today. I know for me, sometimes I look at volumes and I'm like, oh boy, I thought I'd be a lot further. And so when I think like that, or when discouragement starts to like weave its way into my mind, what I always do is I look at volume last year at this time. And 9 times out of 10, it's always going to be higher. And if it's not higher and say it's equivalent, that's still a blessing. Like that's still actually a good thing instead of it going completely down. And let's say it's opposite. Maybe it is completely down from where you were at last year. Okay, what can you learn in this moment, in this season, for God to give you to push past the discouragement? And I know for me, so many times, like I've had, especially here lately, I've had the goals, and Morgan and I talked about it because I had the goals of duplication. Like that is something that I've wanted so badly this year. I've wrote it everywhere. I wrote it on my dream board. I wrote it on my journal. I wrote it on it's literally my background on my phone. Like, I have it implanted in my mind that duplication is something that I just want to pray for. I want to know that I can duplicate the like empowerment, encouragement, and success for people. And it has not happened the way that I thought it would. It's happened in different ways, and so I have to be grateful in that, but it hasn't happened in the ways that I personally have like imagined it in my mind. And I thought I would, and I have on my dream board 10 personally enrolled diamonds. Okay. And I have on my dream board, like this amount of rubies or whatever, this amount of paycheck, this house, this and this. And although I haven't reached those things, like, I have to put into picture and perspective of the person that I've grown in the process. And when you think about that, of the person that you've grown in the process, you can't necessarily get mad at God, because I think that like so many of us look at, okay, well, if we receive this, then we'll know that God is real. If we receive this, we know that God got our back. But if you can look back at it, even though he hasn't provided you with the things that you thought that you wanted right in this instance, has he not still always provided for you? And that's something that I've really struggled with this past, like, I feel like this full year I've struggled with. This year's just been really weird. I don't really know how to explain like the weirdness of what I feel. I think it's just like a life season of like, I'm hitting 25 in 2 days, which happy birthday, Brooke. And I don't know, like, it's just weird. I don't know if people go through this in their 20s. It's just a weird season. But I'm embracing all of it. And I've talked to Amber on my team about this a lot, like just embracing every single aspect of your life and season that you're in. And so even though I'm not where I want to be in this moment, I'm embracing this season, and I'm like, okay, God, can you explain to me or show me or give me proof of what it is that I need to learn in this season where I'm not where I want to be? What do you want me to learn? I'm back where I was in this situation 2 weeks ago, a year ago, a month ago. You can kind of fill in the blank there and figure out, what didn't you learn last time? I know last year I didn't learn to genuinely, fully give my business over to him and trust him. And I can tell you, from last year to this year, it's completely different. No matter what my business looks like, I have this overwhelming peace and feeling that he's going to provide. And I think it also starts with the amount of, like, you said surrender. I was literally about to say the word surrender. So it's really weird that you typed that. So like, surrender everything to him. And that's taken me a very, very, very long time. I was also talking to my leaders yesterday about control, because like when your team starts to grow and you have leaders stepping up as leaders, you're like, you so badly want to just hold on tightly. And I'm not even a green, and I'm like, oh, control, 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 or red. And I just so badly want to control. And it's really hard, because when you control things, when things don't go your way, you start blaming yourself. And you start wondering, what's wrong with me? What did I do? What can I do differently? And then you start blaming what's happening within your organization, or what's happening with the people around you and what they're going through. You start blaming it on you. And that's not God's intentions at all. He's like, sister, you're not meant to hold the world in your hand. Like, I've created the world. You're not meant to hold it. So why are you sitting here being disappointed? And so I don't know if the feeling of disappointment is what someone else is feeling, or if that's something you felt in like a season pretty recently. I feel like I go through these cycles of disappointment, and it's always something that he can teach me in the moment. Like, the disappointing thing for me right now is definitely like the duplication part. So I'm taking duplication out of my vocabulary, and I'm replacing it with a word that's going to fire me up. And I think more of like, maybe empower should be the word, because I can't sit here and make people do the things that they want to do. So maybe empower them, and then like maybe gain a different perspective. No matter what happens or who promotes or whatever, I know that I can make a difference some way, shape, or form in their life, even if it's just by a compliment. And so that's something that I've like really heavily tried to weigh in on, is try to figure out, where's my disappointment coming from? Why am I disappointed? Is it because I'm trying to control things that genuinely just aren't in my control, which is 9 times out of 10 the accurate thing. And I think it just gives you a different perspective, especially when you're facing disappointment, to see, okay, but I think I maybe have brought this disappointment on myself, because I'm not even realizing the blessings that God is giving me. I'm not realizing the picture that he has in front of me, and that I'm trying to sit here and have the outcome of what I thought would happen. And this devotional kind of explains it all today. So this one says, it says, thank me in the midst of the crucible. When things seem all wrong, look for growth opportunities, especially look for areas where you need to let go, leaving your cares in my able hands. Do you trust me to orchestrate your life events as I choose, or are you still trying to make things go according to your will? If you keep trying to carry out your intentions while I'm leading you in another direction, you defy your desires. Be on the lookout for what I'm doing in your life. Worship me by living close to me, thanking me in all circumstances. And I think I needed to hear that because no matter how many times I hear that or see that or learn that in a devotional, I just think it's a very good reminder. That's reasons why I constantly stay in the Word, is because sometimes I do have to be reminded 15 million times to actually understand something. It's just like when you're training someone new, someone might ask you the same question 15 times and you just have to repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. And then that 16th time, they're like, oh, that's what you meant. And I know we do the same exact thing. And so it's kind of like that. That's why I just always talk about like getting in the Word consistently. I will say this again because I'll repeat it until I literally can't breathe. But you having your quiet time in the morning and giving your time to God is on a whole different level of finding peace and joy in your situations. And if you still haven't started doing that, because I feel like probably, this isn't like a judgment thing, but I feel like maybe 1%, that it's normally like when you're on Zooms, the statistic is normally 1% will take away what you're actually saying and actually apply it. So I really hope that someone in here starts today if you haven't, because it's so powerful. It's so like, I don't even know to explain the feeling. Again, every time I try to put it into words, I just can't. And it brings you a connection. And so anytime that I have these overwhelming feelings, this anxiety feeling, this depression feeling, this sadness, this overwhelm, this feeling of like, God, I literally can't keep going like this. That's when I dive back into the Word, and it's like a refresher. It's like a fresh breath of air. Or yeah, no, I didn't say that right. It's like a breath of fresh air. Yeah, I said that right this time. And so if you look at it like that, if you look at it like that, I promise you, it's just so much more powerful. And I just want to see people more joyful. Like, I want to see people more confident in their lives when they're going through something, to not fall flat on their face and go through such a dark season. I know that some people, and I used to be like this, like whenever I went through a dark season, it was like so dark to the point where I felt like I couldn't get out. And then I started leaning really in on God, and I felt like it was getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So whenever I go back into those like dark seasons, because I mean, life is hard sometimes, life gets in the way. I'll fall back down, and then I'll get back up more quickly, because his words always like are burned into my brain saying, you can do this, you can do this. You know, I'm doing everything in my power to help you. And like, you will never feel alone, as if you weren't spending time with him. And then you'll start maybe thinking, okay, maybe I should have done my Bible study. Maybe I should have started really diving deep into him. And so I just never want someone to feel so alone to the point where they can't like even open their Bible. And I've been there before. And so I'm trying to like, prevent that. So hopefully that definitely helps. And if anybody like maybe has, I don't know, like a testimony, if they don't have a testimony, I know we were doing testimony Tuesdays, but I woke up late yesterday, so I didn't get to do the prayer thing yesterday. But if anybody has like a testimony, or maybe they relate to something with this, you can definitely share. And then y'all can go ahead and drop your prayer request below if you want. These are questions. So this is like the devotional that was before. Yes, let me share this, Brooke, and then you can definitely share that. So these are some questions that like maybe you feel like you've asked God before, because I read this devotional this morning and it wasn't the one that I wanted to read, so I just read it and then skipped over it. But it was saying, most of us catch ourselves asking this: how long, Lord, will you forget me forever? And this is like an actual Bible verse in Psalm 13. How long will you hide your face from me? How long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart all the day? And it's basically just saying like, how long, God, are you going to sit here and have me sit in this puddle of sadness or this puddle of disappointment? How long? Or do you even hear me? Are you even here? And I know so many times when I've felt disappointment, I ask those questions over and over and over again. And so it's literally like you're going back to Psalms when David cries to God saying, can you hear me? Like, are you even here? And as you know, like, I don't know all the stories in the Bible, so I'm still getting good on that. The reasons why I'm reading my Bible every day. But I just know that like he's always provided. So hopefully that helps to let you know like you're not alone. So if you've asked those questions are valid. And maybe ask those today and see if he shows up in a way that you didn't necessarily expect it. So Anyways, yeah, Brooke, you can go ahead and share something.
Sorry, the lighting's like really weird and it like makes me seem like I'm like an angel or something. Like it's so freaking
You're
bright. I'm like,
glowing.
right. Okay, so most of you know that we've been church hunting, and I just want to tell you like the rest of it because we finally found one and I'm so pumped about it. So, like long story short, if you haven't been on and you're like, what are you talking about? We moved in May and I was really struggling with having a church home, or I should say not having a church home. And so I was let down by a lot of churches, not in like that it's their fault, but like I just got my hopes up, and I knew it wouldn't happen like very, very quick. But we stuck this one out even though the pastor was on sabbatical, because I just truly felt like it was like where we were supposed to be, but I didn't want to get my hopes up about it. And so every Sunday before church, I was like, I don't know if this is our church, but I wanted, like the first time I prayed it, I wanted a sense of hope. And then Granger actually ended up running to the nursery, and I've never put him in the nursery at church because I just don't trust people with my kid. And so I ended up letting him stay in the nursery that day. And there was a connection every single week at church because I felt like I was surrendering it over to him. I was like, all right, if this is where we're supposed to be, like, you're going to give me some sort of sign. And every single week we ran into somebody that we either knew or like a family member or like someone else that we were like, oh my gosh, like there's someone in our apartment complex that lives here that goes to that church. And like, it just like every single week just kept like adding up and adding up. And well, the pastor is finally back on sabbatical, and so we got to meet him before the church service, like a 30-second sort of thing. And then they ended up playing for worship, playing the worship music. And obviously, like, I'm a music person, I was a band teacher, so that's like how I connect to God very, very much. But during that, I literally heard him say, you are home, this is where you're supposed to be. And it was like the craziest thing to me because I don't obviously normally hear him like that so clear, but I felt the voice, I felt his presence. It was just like incredible. And I truly feel, not just because that is our church home, but because I like surrendered every single week and was like, I don't know what this is, I really like this church, I really like the people, but this is in you, if this is the church or where you want us to be and where you want us to, in a sense, like bloom. And so then we had lunch with the pastor after, and they were so willing to go out, even though they had just gotten back from their 90 days of being gone. They were so willing to go out and sit with us and everything like that. And I just really feel like it's because I surrendered everything, every emotion, every fear, everything because of it. And now I have the most feeling of like peace and feeling at home, and it's just absolutely incredible. So I know there's a really, really short version of it, but if I told the whole story, we wouldn't get off at 9.
No, I definitely really like that. And I think it's like such a powerful testimony to where just to show that like God can work so many different ways in your life and it's not like a certain look. And the fact, it's really weird that you said that you like heard him because I hear like sermon pastors like Michael Todd definitely talks about it all the time where he's like, I heard God say this. I heard God say this. And I'm like, where you hear him at? Like, what, can he talk to me? And I'm like, bro, like, what are you even talking about? And then a couple weeks ago, I was like, just like praying. I was like, God, what do you want me to do with these prayer Zooms? Like, am I even making an impact? Like, what direction do I need to go? And I literally had a voice pop in my head. And I think it's something like that. I don't know, but I had the voice of him saying, help them find joy. And I was just like, okay, got it. And so like that was like it gave me like a new purpose. And so if y'all haven't like heard God like that, like understandable, because I mean I've been doing this since January, like the prayer Zoom. And I've been like working on my faith for the past 6 years. And I feel like maybe I've talked to him before like that, but I just haven't paid attention. I don't know. But like when I felt that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really weird. Is this like the Holy Spirit like talking to me? And like if you try to explain it to someone who really isn't like Christian based, they're probably like, you're crazy. Like that's just like your head talking. But it was really weird. And so now I do know what you're talking about with that. It just kind of like comes over you and you're like, where'd that thought come from? Okay, gotcha. And it's really cool. And so like the fact that like you experienced that too, I'm really glad, because if whoever experiences that, like it's really, really cool to experience, because now you're like, oh, this is really weird. Like I don't know how to explain it. So that's really cool that you experienced that. And also, Anna, I'm looking at your thing. If you place your expectations on someone else, that's when you find that your joy goes up and down, because you're finding like your expectations, your joy, your happiness in other people and their work, and you can't. you can only depend on you and what you can do. And you first have to ask yourself, like, have you been doing all the things that you would want to like you would want another leader to show up as? Number one question, I always have to ask myself that. And then number two, like, when you put such high expectations on someone and they don't reach them, you instantly feel so disappointed. And we weren't ever meant to put those high expectations on someone. And I personally am really bad about that. So when I think people are going to be rock stars and I'm like, this girl's my next diamond, and then she doesn't text me back at all, like literally had someone that I thought was going to be my next diamond. And she texted me the other day and she's like, I just really want to take it really slow. And I'm like, okay. And I thought she was going to be so good. Like, it just happens like that. But, that's like normally a teaching moment too, to know like, okay, God, will you teach me in this moment? But I do understand the disappointment part completely. Okay, I'm just reading these and then I will pray for us. Okay, awesome. Okay. I'll go ahead and pray over us, and then if y'all have more prayer requests, y'all can drop them below. I'll be able to see them. Okay, so Lord, thank you so much for bringing people on here today. Just kidding. Hold on, let me stop this recording.